Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm Dorothy. I am a professional astrologer. You can find me on the web at nhastrologer.com. There you can contact me if you would like your own private sessions. And I'm teaching classes online. You can connect with me there as well. And Facebook, Dorothy Morgan Astrologer. So today what I want to do here is, and this is a new format for me. I've been watching and I've been trying to figure out if I want to do the whole year for each zodiac sign, or if I wanted to continue doing once a month for each zodiac sign. Now that is a huge amount of hours. I can't do it anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 3-month forecast for each zodiac sign. So January, February, March, or basically the winter months, the winter season, and I will work on that for you. And if you want to see the first part of the winter, you go back and you watch the December forecast for your zodiac sign. Okay, so this intro will be in every video, just so you know. Watch the time. If you want to go watch another one, you can skip past this point. All right, thank you for watching, and let me get started. All right, so let's get started for Gemini. All right, so on the 4th of January, I'm going to look at my notes here. We have the full moon in the sign of Cancer. Got a little lost. And so that is in your second house, and the second house is what we value. So when Cancer is in that area and there's a full moon there, what we value, we have a big emotional attachment to it. So this will come to your attention during this full moon on January 4th. Now, we also have 4 Capricorn planets. The first part of January, they're in your second house of values. So here we are, we have Capricorn. It's all about structure and the foundations and where we feel safe and secure. And these 4 planets are in your second house, and that is how I use my skills and talents to earn the money that I earn, to what do I value. And so it just means that you value old things, steady things, things that are very reliable. You don't take a lot of financial risks, at least while planets are transiting through this area in the sign of Capricorn. And while they're doing that in early January, that's what that will show us. Now we also get to see that with that energy, we also have the energy of maybe realizing that you might have spent a little too much, and you're having, during the holidays, and you're having to buckle down and maybe earn a little more, or figure out how you're going to manage your budget at this point in time. So I'm going to scroll past this. I've got 3 pages of notes here in front of me, so let's get moving. So by the 5th of January, though, the planet Mercury and Venus, they move into the 9th house, into your 9th house for Gemini. And that's in the sign of Aquarius. And that 9th house is higher education through social changes, or because of the Aquarius energy and because of the 9th house. And so for you Gemini, with these planets moving in there for the next 3 weeks, Venus will move through in 3 weeks, but Mercury will be retrograde there. And so on January 21st, Mercury goes retrograde in Aquarius in your 9th house all the way through February 11th. So the energy of that, and it'll be there even longer than that, but I won't report on that. So with Mercury retrograde in your 9th house, it's like, what is your education doing for you? How are you expanding your awareness? How are you learning new things and doing things that are educational for yourself? Or are you teaching? It could be either or. Of course, the teacher is always the student, and the student is the teacher. I've always found out in the classes that I teach. It's always wonderful. So work this for yourself, and to see how does it feel for you. All right? Because with all that energy, in that retrograde energy in that 9th house, you don't want to, especially early January, you don't want to jump into anything new, any new education. You don't want to do any of that, but you want to think things through. Oops, excuse me. You want to think things through. All right, and not make any rash decisions. But what you want to do is you want to go into this retrograde time period with Mercury, as I will always say, with a checklist or a to-do list. Things that have not been completed yet but need to be done. This is an opportunity to finish them. All right, and you're going to do that, Gemini, in that 9th house of higher education. All right. Now, the new moon at 0 degrees of Aquarius is also in your 9th house, and that's on January 20th. All right. I know I should put that in front of the 21st activity, but it doesn't matter, because what's going to happen here with that new moon is it does, in your 9th house, it does inspire you to discover and find new education. Just the Mercury retrograde retrograde in that position the next day slows our desires down, and it might put some roadblocks in front of us. But it'll only take a few weeks for that to kind of let loose and bypass us. All right, so there are opportunities, even with that new moon in your ninth house. There's still opportunities for you to find some sense of freedom through the new endeavors that you want to engage in. All right. On February 3rd, we have the full moon in Leo, and that will be in the third house. Now, when there's a full moon in our third house, that is all about communication. Mercury is still retrograde during this period, but with the full moon in Leo, we're trying to be very creative, and what are we passionate about? So we're looking at what we're passionate about. We might have something that is on our mind that we need to sit down and write out. That's what that third house energy is about. It's about communicating through conversation. But the planet of communication and conversation is retrograde right now. So it could be a little bit of a struggle. We're having some issues that we're needing to work through, and we're going to need to figure out how to work through them. All right. With the sun in Aquarius and Jupiter in Leo, we have an opposition on the 6th of February, and that involves groups and friendships and how they play a big role in your life and in the activities that you're doing. Again, that sun's in Aquarius and that Jupiter is in Leo, and the area is all about focusing in on what is important to us and focusing in on our communication skills. Once again, that communication stuff keeps coming up for you, Gemini. Isn't that surprising? Think we know how to communicate. We do. All right. So I also want to say on February 6th and 7th, in that time period, Venus and Pluto make a very nice connection to each other. It's a 60-degree angle, which is called the sextile. And that just means that somewhere along the line in our love relationships, we are having some type of transition going on. And this is very easy. It is a beautiful transition. It is easy, easy, easy. So whether you are taking things to another step and making a relationship a little more serious, or if you're transitioning out of a relationship, this is an easy transition either way. All right, so it's easy to get through. But it does mean that if you're in a relationship that needs to go through some type of transition, near and around February 6th and 7th, there is a transition there's the potential for that. Okay. Now, on the 11th of February, Mercury will be going direct, and that means that communication in that time period around the 11th of February will be pretty much at a standstill. Now, this does happen again in that 9th house, and that is all about your education. And it's all about finding freedom. So make sure you don't act too rash and let go of a good relationship or a friendship because you're feeling it's too constricting. Because with this energy of Mercury going direct, in that time period, especially during the retrograde and during the station of it around February 11th, we could make the wrong choice because we just can't wait any longer. Because what I would say is we don't need to push any situations in that time period anywhere around February 11th. Don't push anything. We allow communication to flow however it wants to and however it needs to. Okay? Then we move on. February 18th, we have a new moon. Is it a new moon? Yes, it is a new moon at 29 degrees of Aquarius. This is the final degree of that zodiac sign, so it is about completion and finishing up what we have not finished up before. It's a very unique way to look at a higher vibrating situation, or looking at a situation from a unique point of view. At 29 degrees of Aquarius new moon, well, it kind of goes along with January 20th, we had a new moon at 0 Aquarius. So we started a new moon cycle with 0 Aquarius, and we have another new moon cycle with 29 Aquarius. That just means that we really need to find our own personal freedoms in that month period. Okay, so if you're paying attention to your life situation, you're going to know what it is at this new moon that is at 29 degrees of a zodiac sign, what it is you need to let go of. Now, typically, I won't tell you to let go of things during a new moon because it's about planting new seeds. But with the new moon at the final degree of a zodiac sign, the moon will be void of course. And so that means for a few hours after the new moon, especially up to about 12 hours, we have an opportunity to continue to release and let things go. Because when the moon enters the next zodiac sign, the sign of Pisces, which isn't very long at all, it's just a little ways away, when the moon enters that sign, I'm going to read my notes here, we have an opportunity to start fresh and start new. All right, because it moves into the sign of Aries, and the sun follows suit right after that. I mean, into the sign of Pisces. My apologies. The moon will move into the sign of Pisces, and then the sun will the next day as well. So when we have these ending degrees of new moons, which we do here, again, is about releasing and letting go on the 18th. And that Pisces energy is the last zodiac, the last degree of the zodiac sign. So it truly means that everything has come to a head and it's time to let go. Right? Get out of our heads. And as soon as the moon moves into the next sign, we're able to flow a little freer and plant those new seeds. So I will tell you not to plant seeds, new moon goals during that time period. Okay? Wait until a few hours later. So when is that few hours later? Being creative and unique in our approach will certainly help move things along. The sun enters Pisces on the 18th, just later in the evening, and that means we're now in the mutable signs for the season. And so this shows us that again, it's time to be flexible, because that final degree of Aquarius is very fixed. Moving into Pisces is very flexible. On the 19th, okay, so I'm going to pause. There we go. So on the 19th of February, sorry about that, I'm talking too fast, I think. But you're a Gemini, you can keep up. On the 19th of February, Mars enters its own sign of Aries, and that is in your 11th house. And so does Venus on the 20th, and then they connect, as lovers do, and then there's some serious fireworks, but all of this goes on in your 11th house. Now, when Mars and Venus are in Aries, it's a very animated sign. It's a very physical sign. It is the masculine and the feminine joining together in a very physical way, if you catch my drift. If you're looking for a relationship with a fair amount of freedom, you guys will have the opportunity for that, because this happens in the 11th house, and that 11th house is all about freedom. Feeling independent and freedom. And you could feel that within the dynamic of a relationship, but this is all fire. You know, Venus and Mars are in Aries, so it's very much a fiery connection, and it is something that most likely will just burn out. On the 22nd, Venus and Mars will be conjunct, like I already said, and that intensifies the energy. They're coming together on the 19th, but they're exact on the 22nd of February. And that intenses our desire to mate and to have a physical connection with a partner, with a sexual partner. So this is very physical, so just be aware and be safe and do what is best for you. On the 23rd of February, the mutable energy of the sun in Pisces does make a square to Saturn in Sagittarius. It's a little bit of a mixed bag, but not bad. Squares are resistant. Squares cause restrictions at times, but they also, if we work through the challenge of whatever it is, and it can be a simple challenge, because these planets are actually immutable signs. So the simple challenge of the 23rd of February is one of Saturn is the ego expression to the sun, the ego expression, to Saturn in Sagittarius, which is all about, again, another level of freedom. So we'll be able to find that. It's changeable if we take the challenge and meet that challenge head on, which is not a hard thing. It is not harsh at all. It is a very easy challenge to meet. It's just like lifting weights, you know, you go up in increments, you know, until you get stronger and stronger. It's a challenge, all right? So the 23rd and the 24th of February also has Venus and Mars making a harmonious trine aspect to Saturn, which means if the relationship that you may have engaged in over the last week turns into something serious, then this energy of these two planets connecting with Saturn can make it a more serious relationship, because Saturn is transiting through your 7th house right now, your solar 7th house, Gemini, and that is the area of relationships. And it's karmic relationships. It's relationships from people that you've known 20, 30 years ago, and all of a sudden you reconnect and you find that he or she is the love of your life. This is what Saturn will do in that sector, and Venus and Mars are connecting with that. So somewhere around the 23rd, 24th of February, for you Geminis, this is a very, especially Gemini rising, it's a very positive place. So keep that in mind. Might be fun. So I'm going to end February with the Sun and Neptune conjunct on the 25th in your career sector in your 10th house. So this means that there is some fog and some unknown things going on in your career right now, which you would like some clarity on, but that's probably not going to happen right away. Okay, so one of the best things to do with stressful energy like this, if you find this is stressful, then is to meditate and to find yourself, find some peace and quiet and your own serenity, however it is. Now, if you're in a field that's a spiritual field or a metaphysical field, this is perfectly fine. If you're in a field that's engineering, you won't have, pretty much will not have Pisces at the midheaven anyways. So you most likely will not have that up there. So it won't, this description won't fit for you. But if your career feels a little foggy right now, then there's not much you're going to be able to do about it. The fog will not clear for a while. So Neptune will be in that sector of your chart for a fair amount of time. You can analyze that in a personal session if you like. Just contact me through my website. On March 5th, I want to move on to March. We have the full moon in Virgo in your 4th house of home and family. So with the full moon there, that means the sun is in the career sector and the moon is down in the home sector. And that means that there is an imbalance between what you're doing at work and home. You're either working too much or you're home too much. It's going to be one or the other. You need to find a balance. On March 10th, there's a fire trine between Mars and Jupiter. This is fantastic for all kinds of action. It's about you and what you want and how you can be creative and what you're passionate about. Take advantage of this. This is a fantastic day for a transit. There's endless energy for all of us to do whatever it is that we feel creative and expressive about on this day, March 10th. And either, a few days on either side of it as well, because Mars doesn't move that quickly. On the 11th of March, Mars and Uranus are conjunct though. And so they are conjunct in your 11th house. Now, when Mars and Uranus are in a conjunction in the solar system, we tend to have some volatile situations around. Depending on what your zodiac sign is, we know you're a Gemini here, but it could be that there's accidents, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of motion, a lot of movement. Things can get stressful because there's a buildup of energy and we don't know what to do with it. So be cautious of that. It is in your 10th house. And, it is in your 11th house. So really, if you can pull in some activities that mean something to you, go and spend time at some type of group that has a lot of meaning to you, that really have your heart centered into. Don't get caught up into somebody else's politics or in arguments in anyone else's beliefs. Do what is important for you. Stay out of other people's messes. And that is a really important thing to do. On the 14th, Saturn will station and move retrograde for the coming few months. Now, when it does that, that is in your solar 7th house again. So that means that there are relationship situations that you need to look at. This is in my 7th house too. And something about a relationship will need some renewing or some reviewing. It takes about 4 months. So whether a relationship needs to go through a period of fixing, what am I trying to say here? When we're working through stuff, we're taking a break, just trying to figure out what a relationship is about. When Saturn is retrograde in the 7th house, this is what happens. We tend to have to take a break from a relationship, or we are deciding that it's just not for us. So Saturn in the 7th house is a make or break time for a lot of relationships, when you have to commit to fixing things or commit to ending it. So that could be a bit tough. Doesn't mean everything's over. It just means there's massive adjustments that need to happen. And hey, it happens once in a while in relationships. It's just how it goes. On March 17th, Venus enters the sign of Taurus. And that is in your 12th house. So unlike Saturn moving through the 7th house and causing stress and restrictions, Venus moving through the 12th house is romantic illusions or fantasies. And so it's really interesting. Venus in Taurus. Venus in Taurus is beautiful, beautiful energy. It loves things. It loves stuff. It loves to surround themselves with beauty. And when it does that, there's nothing wrong with it. But when it's in the 12th house, sometimes it takes things a step too far, and it just becomes delusional. So we need to really, really be careful of that. All right. On March 20th, we have a solar eclipse, and it is at the 29th degree of Pisces. So that's the last zodiac degree, the last degree of 360. So the very end of that. And so what we get to do with this energy is really completely and totally release all expectations, release all material thoughts, release everything that is material, do a deep, deep meditation, go into some shamanic journey, if you will, listen to drums, do something for yourself that is extremely spiritual, that is not material in any way, shape, or form. Do some very deep spiritual rituals or transitions. Just do anything that you can that has to do with spirit, nothing to do with the physical. All right, because it's all about releasing and letting go. Again, we have a new moon that is at the last degree of its respective zodiac sign, and so it's not about bringing in the new yet. We have to wait for that moon to move into the next zodiac sign for us to be able to start focusing in on new adventures and that new energy. And we do not have that with this 29th degree of Pisces, because it's about letting go. So it'll take about 13 hours for the sun to move into the sign of Aries. And when that happens, what we get with that is we have the spring equinox, we have the new astrological year. It's the new year for astrology, and it is a very important day. So then is when we get to start set new goals and to start looking into the future. But when we have that new moon at 29 at an eclipse as well, it is a total and complete humongous release, and I will just leave you with that. So I want you to focus in on immersing yourself into the new. Once we get to that new moon, and I mean to the sun, when it moves into the sign of Aries. I'm going to put the time up in a minute. And so when that happens, we can immerse ourselves into new, celebrate the newness of what it is that we want to bring into our lives. So I will leave you with that. So thank you very much for watching. And I want to just say, namaste. And blessed be.